All right, I got 7 o'clock. Thank you, everybody. Welcome to the, I'll now open the November 4th regular Battleground City Council meeting. Please stand if you're able for the pledge.
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And welcome back, Ms. Halili. Roll.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mayor McCoy,
I am here.
Deputy Mayor Bowman,
Here.
Councilmember Ferrer,
Present.
Councilmember DeRozier,
Here.
Councilmember Cortez,
Here.
Councilmember Davis.
Here.
Councilmember Overholser,
Here.
and the clerk is present. That concludes the roll.
Thank you for that. Next up is agenda approval.
I motion to amend the agenda for tonight's evening meeting.
Okay, what's your motion?
What's that?
What's the motion?
Oh, okay, sorry. I have a little confusion that I had a question. It may not even need it, but I do have a question about the agenda for tonight. So I'm a little confused because we have two agendas, two items on tonight's agenda. We have one that's under the business for the Clark County Transportation Alliance, where their policy statement, which staff is recommending council to approve it.
Mhm.
But prior to that business, we are already being recommended by staff under the presentation section to approve the 2025 state legislative agenda, which already has that on the page 2. So my motion would be to separate page 2 from page 1, because it looks like page 1 is, here's the legislative, this is what we want for it to be lobbying, right? For a battleground. And then the second page is more about, oh, okay, do we want to approve? Sorry, I usually have this on there's a lot on this thing, but there's 3 items on page 2. And I was
So
wondering if we
what,
could
so when you're saying page 2, are you talking about the document?
Yeah, so you have the 2025 legislative for battleground. And then the second page, it does kind of like a support and statement, right? And
So,
there's 3 on that one.
so what I would suggest is when we get to that, you can separate that at that time. I mean, we can discuss those separately.
Okay.
I don't think we need to amend the agenda to do that.
Okay.
So I understand where she's coming from, because we're going to be
Consent before?
approving the battleground legislative agenda, which the last item on there is to endorse the Transportation Alliance policy statement.
Okay.
And then we're going to be talking about the policy statement in new business. So we will have already approved something that we hadn't talked about yet.
Thank you.
Is that correct?
Exactly, it, yeah.
Is it,
thank you.
is it, I don't see it under consent.
So it's right here. No, it's in our legislative one that we're gonna have with
Presentation.
Mr. Weiss, and then we got to move to adopt under presentations.
Okay, so we just want to move that to the
Maybe
end.
move it to after the business of the Clark County Transportation Alliance.
Okay.
Can you please clarify this motion? Is this a motion to remove the CCTA policy endorsement?
Let me clarify. Yeah, so what I would like is, the motion is to remove the presentation piece behind or in front of before or behind the business, put it into business.
So to move the state legislative agenda from the presentation and place it under business after the CCTA.
Correct.
Okay, thank you
Yes,
for that
thank you.
clarification.
Does that work for our state lobbyists?
Mayor, can I offer up, perhaps we have Josh Weiss on the line, that maybe Rob, you could do your presentation right prior to his presentation and move that business section that Rob's going to take on the Clark County Transportation Alliance policy statement. It is a presentation in motion simply on that policy statement.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. We can, is that okay?
Presentation and then put the motioning part into after the
So
business.
put the CCTA presentation before Josh. Is that acceptable?
Yeah.
Is there a second on this motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? One no. It's Councilmember Cortez. Listen to that.
Move to approve the agenda with the changes.
Second.
Motion by Deputy Mayor Bowman, second by Councilmember Ferrer. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right. That brings us to council member reports. Any council member have anything to report out on any meetings they attended on behalf of council?
I do have a little update. It's not necessarily a meeting, but it is regards to the conversation with the YMCA.
Okay, sure.
Okay. So I spoke with the YMCA about, probably about a week and a half ago. They currently, the update is they do not have the bandwidth to work on the two projects. They're focusing their efforts on another location, and therefore they are selling the BG location in order to fund their other project.
Okay, thank you for that. Any other council member reports this evening? All right, if not, that takes us on to the mayor's report. With us tonight, we have some distinguished guests from the Walk and Knock leadership team. Is Mike Anderson here? I didn't get to meet you before. I apologize. Or is Ken going to speak on his behalf? Yeah, if Mike's not here, please come forward and tell us a little bit about the Walk and Knock Volunteer Food Drive. And maybe how people can take part, and what you guys are all about.
Oh, okay. I guess I didn't know I was going to say something. So this is very much, I hope I remember it all, but I'm Ken Stanky. I'm actually with the Battleground Lions Club also. I've been the coordinator for the Battleground area for about 10 years now, I suppose. So we're back again, thank God, to the porch pickup type of approach to Walk and Knock, which gets a lot of volunteers involved. We get a lot of kids from, 4-H church groups, scouts, the ROTC group in Battleground. So it's on December 4th or December 7th this year on Saturday. It's always the first Saturday in December. We will be sending out the Walk and Knock bags through the mail this year. You did it last year to a limited extent. I think it's going to be a little bigger this year. So you can fill up a bag, set it on your porch, and we'll come by, pick it up between 9 and about noon. For those, there's going to be some areas around Battleground where we just can't get to. We don't have enough volunteers, enough drivers. And I would encourage people in the rural areas to get with their neighbors, grab their donations, bring them down to the fire station at Dollar's Corner between 9 and 1 on that Saturday, and we'll gladly take them, and the ROTC group will help you take them out of your car and send them off to where they need to be. So this is, I believe this year is our 40th year. It's either this year or next year, but we've been doing this for about 40 years. So, it's a great opportunity for the community to help out neighbors and stuff. And I don't have the numbers right off the top of my head, but I think in Clark County last year, we brought in over 2,500 tons of food. So it was a good drive.
And if people wanted to volunteer, how would they? What's the best way?
They can get a hold of me. Or you can go to the Walk and Knock webpage. It's just under Walk and Knock. I don't think it has Clark County on it. Anyway, and there is a volunteer section there, so you can then choose an area to go to, and it gets your information out there, so it's easy to make contact with. But
All right.
so
Any questions for our current citizen of the year?
well, yeah, that was quite an honor too. That was a surprise.
Well, I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I thought Mr. Anderson was going to be here, but I appreciate you stepping up and
Sure.
giving us
Yeah.
the details.
Yeah. Hope to see you all out there.
Thanks,
Thank
sir.
you.
Thank you. Okay, that's it for the mayor's report. Next up, presentations. I believe we have some graduations to attend to, and this was your show. I'll let you take it away, sir.
Thank you, sir. On behalf of City Manager Swanson, I'm going to do that. This and our staff, this evening, it is my pleasure to present to the City Council the 2024 graduates of Battleground University. For the sake of those in the audience who may not know, Battleground University, or BGU as we call it, is a public outreach and educational program that provides our students, our residents, a glimpse of the inner workings of City Hall, sharing how we're organized, how we operate, and what we do in service to our residents, our businesses, and our visitors. BGU is a survey course, a condensed survey course that covers a wide range of topics, everything from city council and administration to community development, finance, public works, and public safety. Although educating our students is our number one priority, we also provide them an opportunity to engage one-on-one with staff, to put a face with a name, so to speak. In the process, we hope that BG removes some of the mystery that the public often associates with local government, addressing misperceptions that can arise over what we do and how we do it, as well as how city government fits in the grand scheme of things. The federalist form of governance that we practice in this country since the birth of the Republic 250 years ago almost. BGU is taught over a 10-week period with classes occurring every other week, most of them here at City Hall. And we try to structure the program so that it's more of a discussion than a formal classroom experience. Yeah, I know they're laughing. I told Bev she shouldn't show up to that class because she was going to get hooked up, but this means there are no quizzes and there's no tests. And so I think all of our students really appreciated that. We also, we only ask that students be active and engaged during the classes. And if they attend at least 4 out of the 5 sessions, they graduate, which is why we're here this evening. We do encourage students to ask questions, a lot of them. And I can say with all sincerity, our students came ready and they were prepared to learn. And that means they were asking a lot of questions, which is great. I hope that they learned something new about the city through this process, and that they felt that what they learned will serve them well going forward in the future. I would also be remiss if I didn't offer thanks to a few key staff members who made all this happen. First, each class was led by a department director. They served as the professors for the class. So I would like to thank and acknowledge Professors Flynn, Lado, Lowry, and Hersig, each of them for taking the time to lead a class on their particular area of expertise. We're grateful to them for sharing their unique insight and their practical experience with our students. I'd also like to thank Ms. Smith for all the work she did, not only promoting the program, but also soliciting and processing student applications, and then serving as the primary point of contact for the city and our students. And Ms. Jensen, who was instrumental in the behind the scenes work, basically ensuring we had whatever we needed for our classes and that things were always ready to go. And then City Manager Swanson and I would also like to thank the City Council for allowing us to host this program. As council members know, but for the sake of our audience, one of your goals is to grow our already strong public engagement program that we have here in the city. And this is the 2nd year of BGU, and we feel the program has and will continue to grow over time. And so we say, job well done. Lastly, to each of our students, and there were 25 of them that were applied and were accepted into the program, we thank you for taking the time out of your busy lives to learn a little bit more about the city. We thank you for showing up and for being engaged. We hope you feel it was time well spent and that you'd be willing to share what you've learned with others in the community. If it's true that knowledge is a powerful tool, then what you have learned and what you will share with others only can make our community that much stronger. So thank you for making the conscious choice to be informed. Really quickly, some stats. We had 25 registered attendees in the class. That's the max size for the class. We want to keep it relatively small so it's easier to manage. 20 of those 25 students attended at least 4 sessions. So we have 20 graduates out of 25. 7 individuals attended all 5 classes. And those individuals, and Alicia gave me the names, Jeannie Kuipers, Johanna Hyatt, Gloria Walk, Jarena Hatch, Chris Gruel, and Beth and David Terry were our 7 individuals who attended every single class. We actually asked our students if a few of them would be willing to share their experience with the city council. We had several, and in sake of time, we're just going to have 2 we're going to invite to come forward. So Bev Jones, if you'll come up first, and then Jeannie Kuipers, if you'll come up second, and then we'll do the fun stuff and hand out diplomas.
Well, thank you for allowing me to attend Battleground University and to graduate tonight. As the Battleground cheerleader, I felt it was important to learn more about what our city is all about, and to meet more of the people was really one of my goals. As a member of the Battleground Lions, I had met several through our adopted city park, but really appreciated the opportunity to meet more of the staff. My favorite class was our visit to the police station, getting to meet Rafferty, and to see the new police cars. You saw that I was modeling them there earlier. I am grateful that our police officers have both of these valuable resources. I consider Rafferty and the new police cars a valuable resource available to our police officers, and I am grateful that they are there for them. Battleground University is a great opportunity. I encourage all of you to check it out. Yay!
Well, that's a hard act to follow. And I'm not going to try. Thank you for allowing me to speak for just a minute. My intent was to just be able to come up and really say thank you, but Rob eloquently covered really everything I wanted to say. But I came into, I signed up for this class because I'm pretty new in the community. I've lived in Battleground kind of on and off for about 10 years. But I have a home here. I have a second home here. And my grandkids are here. So this is where I want to be. I retired 2 years ago from corporate life, and now I'm dabbling to see, okay, how do I learn more about what's going on around me? And how can I not be a complainer, but understand really where's the data, what's the research, how is these decisions made? So that's really what I learned, and I expected to learn that. I also expected to learn who the people were. What I didn't expect, which I was pleased about, was to see the camaraderie amongst the staff, the enthusiasm that everyone had, the professionalism, the communication, and the hearts for servanthood that I just didn't think coming into it that would be part of what I would walk away with. So I thank you, and I do encourage you to keep the program going. I also, if you don't already have this or haven't considered it, if it could be condensed down into something small that could be brought into the school systems, I think that would be great. But again, thank you very much.
So, Mr. Mayor, I think what we'll do now is graduates, what I would ask that you do is you come up to Ms. Smith here to my right, and you see she has the diplomas behind her, so you can grab your diploma, and then we'll have all of you come up to this in front of the dais with City Council. We can take a photograph, if you don't mind.
They said that, would you all the way up front in front of the dais? Yeah. Are you hosting? I'll come. Thank you.
Good, good.
Yeah, we're gonna have to get friendly. all the way through the end.
Oh, yeah, no.
Well, and to our graduates, I just want to say it's very refreshing to see people spend so much of their personal time that they wouldn't have to on something like this. So it really means a lot to the council as a whole as well. So thank you for doing that. Next up, Chief, you have a presentation as well.
I do, and thank you. It's my pleasure to be able to introduce a gentleman tonight who, instead of calling him Mr. Fessick, I get to call him Officer Fessick. So Yvonne, would you please come forward and let me say a little bit about you, and then we'll swear you in. So please forgive me, I'd take some notes, and when you hear, I hope you'll understand. When you see him, you'll see he's a very spitting image of me. If you saw the graduation
That's what
photos,
it-
it looked
this
like
is
it was
very,
take your
very
kid to
funny.
work day.
You were also first in the class?
Yeah, almost, yes. Yvonne was born in Portland, grew up in Gresham. In school, he was a swimmer in water polo, but it earned him a trip to the Junior Olympics in San Jose. He received his degree from Portland State University, majoring in criminology and criminal justice, and graduated cum laude. After graduating, he went to work for the Vancouver Fire Marshal Office as a fire code officer. Spent several years there talking about fire safety and fire code enforcement. He brought his passion to Battleground, where he was hired by our agency. He recently graduated from the academy, graduating towards the top of his class, received the highest marks in several areas, including practical skills and overall achievement. I had a chance to witness his graduation, and he represented the city and our agency in the very, very finest manner. When he's not working, you can tell that he lifts weights. He's an avid boxer, motorcyclist, and he enjoys visiting his grandparents in Troutdale. Last weekend, he just moved to Salmon Creek. We are super excited to have him as our newest member of the police department. I know that he is going to represent the agency and the city in the same manner that he did at the academy. He's going to go on to accomplish great things to support him. Grateful that our entire night shift is here, our operations lieutenant here, our administrative assistant here, and Rafferty made an appearance as well. And with Ivan here today is a very close friend of his, Jacqueline Vane. They work together at the fire marshal office. So we are very, very excited. Ma'am, the floor is yours.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name,
I, Yvonne Fessick,
do solemnly affirm
do solemnly affirm
that I will support,
that I will support,
obey,
obey,
and defend the Constitution
and defend the Constitution
and laws
and laws
of the United States of America
of the United States of America
and of the state of Washington.
and of the state of Washington.
I will abide by
I will abide by
the law enforcement
the law enforcement
code of ethics
code of ethics
and will diligently
and will diligently
and impartially
and impartially
perform all duties
perform all duties
of police officer
of police officer
for the city of Battle Ground,
for the city of Battle Ground,
county of Clark,
county of Clark,
state of Washington,
state of Washington,
as such duties
as such duties
are prescribed by law.
are prescribed by law. Yeah. Everything I
Here, Mike.
I didn't bring my special boots and if you told her. Okay, and with the changed agenda, we're moving the Clark County Transportation Alliance presentation up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This item concerns the city's proposed endorsement of the Clark County Transportation Alliance, or CCTA's 2025 policy statement. On behalf of its public and private partners in Southwest Washington, the CCTA has long been an advocate for transportation policies and projects that have the potential to benefit the region. In that way, a strong and unified voice increases the likelihood that our region will receive funding for critical infrastructure projects, which ultimately, hopefully, keeps Southwest Washington's economy productive. CCTA's advocacy efforts are memorialized through an annual policy statement, which they asked be endorsed by other affected partner agencies, including the city of Battle Ground. While the CCTA policy statement is intended to be broad and focus on the larger region, it nevertheless also includes projects that are unique to its partner agencies' jurisdictions that can help address matters of regional concern, such as traffic congestion, traffic pedestrian safety, and multimodal transportation systems. The proposed 2025 CCTA policy statement includes two projects here in Battle Ground: the Eaton Boulevard Improvement Project and the Downtown Revitalization and Circulation Study. A copy of the 2025 policy statement was attached to the staff report on this matter. The City Council's endorsement of the CCTA policy statement appears to be consistent with the city's goals and objectives, specifically Goal 1, which is to cultivate opportunities for private economic development, Goal 3, which is to ensure long-term fiscal stability of the agency, and Goal 4, which is to improve and maintain infrastructure systems. Staff recommends the city council endorse the 25 CCTA policy statement and authorize the CCTA to use the city's logo on its advocacy material. Representatives of CCTA should be with us this evening. Mr. Arp, are you here? Mr. Arp is here. And he's more than happy to address any questions council members may have regarding the policy statement. That concludes our presentation.
Thank you. Any questions from council?
That was just the presentation. We're not doing the motion until later. With the business, I thought we were switching. I think we're doing the reverse of what I was asking for, but so this is where you're providing us with the information, and then we're going to we're going off of what you guys have recommended as a staff too. So this would be the time to ask questions on the CCTA because we're going to be making motions after that. Okay. Okay, so the first thing, so I was looking at the different actions under the CCTA. And I know that it made mention of the action 1 item. It talked a lot about multimodal. And so obviously right there, I have the concerns of the light rail. And then so hoping that you can address if that falls under that. Action 2, I was concerned with the, it mentions road usage charges under action 2. If we could get some more information on that, I would appreciate that. And then action 3, sorry, I'm putting a lot out there, but this is the last one. With action 3, it talked about funding regionally significant freight mobility improvements for the track improvements for the county-owned Chalachi Prairie Road. Now, that leaves me with some concerns. I mean, obviously, I would like to think on the bright side of this as, hey, you know, we had talked about maybe an excursion train here in Battleground, like, you know, tourism. I think we had said tracks and trails, something like that. But I'm hoping to get some answers on maybe what was the reasoning for this? Is this more about, could this lead to a possibility of opening the door for future commercial usage or a freight rail dependent use, which we all agreed upon and signed a resolution against that rail being used for such a purpose? That's all.
Mr. Arp, you want to come up and address a few of those concerns, if you can?
Mayor, Council, Manager Swanson and staff, thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to answer questions about the Clark County Transportation Alliance statement. I'll hope to punch through your questions here. We have this policy statement has been designed to be a broad tent, and we don't get real specific on the exact details of how things are getting done because we know there's a tremendous amount of negotiation and flexibility that's going to be necessary on all fronts. And so with the I-5 bridge conversation, we know that we're going to need multimodal crossing throughout that area. We don't know exactly how it's going to play out still to this day. We don't know because we're right in the middle of a draft supplemental EIS process. We won't have a record of decision until next fall at the earliest, but we know we are going to need public transit. The locally preferred alternative that's being considered includes 2, both express bus service as well as light rail. So both of those are conversations that are in the locally preferred alternative that are currently being studied. So does that answer question number 1? Okay. Question number 2, the challenge on funding roads or transportation in general used to be on the back of gas taxes. We have electric vehicles now, they don't pay gas taxes. So there's a question on how we're going to maintain our roads long-term. And we get more and more efficient in our vehicles all the time as well. So there's less fuel being used. There's less total revenue being generated for transportation. In the state of Washington, transportation is dedicated funding. And so we need dedicated tools to help fund transportation. And for the last maybe 5 years, the State Transportation Commission has been studying the idea of a road usage charge It's not unique to our area. It's being studied in a lot of areas, but in some way, charging for miles driven rather than the amount of gas you put in your car. That will be a topic at the legislature this session, and certainly will be a very active conversation. I would expect that future investments in transportation will need additional revenue sources, and that's probably one of them. So, and then on the third one, which is freight mobility and the Clark, the rail that you mentioned. We know that rail system, regardless of whatever use it will have in the future, even if it's recreational or even if it's mothballed, we're going to need state funding to help. Because the county doesn't have dollars to do that. The municipalities along the rail don't have dollars to do that. So it really doesn't matter what we use it for. We're going to need state dollars. And so in the spirit of a big tent strategy, that policy statement has been in this document for about the last 4 or 5 years. And it is to reflect that we're going to need some state help to get whatever done we want to do in that area.
You good? Okay, Councilmember Cortez.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to approve the 2025 state legislative.
This is the, yeah. A motion by Councilmember Cortez, second by Deputy Mayor Bowman. Looks like we have a. Oh. Before I go back to you, we'll go to Councilmember Davis first.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Personally on this, thank you for coming and answering some of
Sure.
those questions, but it actually raised more questions for me as it's, when you say broad, there's too many unknowns for me. And I am not a fan of light rail or public transportation like that. And so, and the charges, AKA tolls, it just doesn't resonate well as far as that. And really my whole thing is we're bundling all this on and you're saying that it's broad. I think broad for me means potential problems that can slip through. So I am, I mean, obviously there's a lot of good things in it, but due to the 3 mentioned, I am not going to be able to be in favor of that. So I just wanted to let you know why. Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate the explanation. Deputy Mayor Bowman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I've been here for 13 years. This is Groundhog Day. It's happened 13 years ago. Same stuff. We don't want the bridge. We don't want light rail. We don't want tolls. That project now has cost us billions more by not supporting and knowing that we need to get something done. In fact, we had a former county council member that had a clock. I don't know what happened to it because his third bridge still hasn't happened. And he was very instrumental in killing this project the first time. And so here we are 13 years later talking about the same stuff. So when we go to Olympia and we're lobbying, this is another organization that's lobbying for us, that's lobbying for Southwest Washington. We do not receive money from the state government if we don't have legislators from Southwest Washington on both sides of the aisle supporting us. We won't receive that money. And so this is just a broad statement saying, hey, these are all the projects that everyone has put in, and we're going to go up, not we, the Clark County Transportation Alliance goes up and they lobby on behalf of us. I've been with them on times when we've lobbied for this stuff, and we may not like everything, but you know, I tell people this all the time. Conservatives want to say use tax. That's what a toll is. Mm-hmm. If you go to Texas and you see all the toll roads in Texas, and people will say, you know, during COVID, there was a lot of people that moved to Texas, okay, because of how conservative it was, but they got tolls everywhere. And when we put in initiative, I think it was $6.95 when they rolled back all the license plates and $35, that took a lot of this funding away for us to be able to fund roads. And I don't care where you go in this state. You can go to Central Washington and see the Vantage Bridge falling apart. We've got to do stuff to fix this stuff. And that's what this is it's just a broad picture. They go up, they lobby on behalf of us. We say, hey, look, you know, we know there's stuff that's significant for other cities. I mean, I could go through this whole list and say, I don't want to spend $125 million on the West Camas Slough Bridge. Who cares about Camas? Pay for it yourself. And Camas can say the same thing about us. And so it's showing unity from Southwest Washington. We may not like everything that's on here. You know, the Target Zero safety program enhancements, that's a big deal. We do a lot of stuff with Target Zero. We do a lot of enforcement with Target Zero. There's a lot of things that come that are positive of that and positive for our community. So just to pick one or two things and throw it out because we don't like it, I'll tell you right now, there's nothing that we can do from this dais that's going to influence that bridge. Nothing. It's all going to happen federal and state, and it's going to be two states working together. So it doesn't matter if I want light rail or don't want light rail, or if I want to, you know, a bridge big enough to pass, you know, Princess Cruise Lines under. It doesn't matter. We're not in that. And so what we're saying is, look, we may not like everything, but we can support some of this stuff, and we've got another ally working for us in Olympia. Thank you.
Councilman Furry, you had buzzed in, but did you want to, you're good? The only thing I want to add to that is historically Battleground's not fared well in getting state monies for a lot of our projects. We have in the recent past done much better. And it's being part of organizations that are up there that know who's moving what money's where. And it's very important from utilizing state dollars. That means we don't have to utilize local dollars. Our deputy city manager, I think he calls it other people's money. So if you can use state money for projects here, it goes a long way towards parks, towards sidewalks, towards the other stuff that maybe are more nice to have instead of need to have. So that's all I would add to that. Does anybody else have any other further discussion or questions for Mr. Arp? Seeing none, there's a motion on the table to approve.
What was the motion again?
I was just going to state it. A motion on the table to approve the Clark County Transportation Alliance policy statement to endorse the 2025 Clark County Transportation Alliance policy statement as presented. Is that correct? Okay. Deputy Mayor Bowman seconded. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No.
Passes 5-2. Thank you, sir, for coming. Okay, that brings us to the state legislative agenda. And who's oh, there he is. Not going to say you scared me, but you scared me. All right, Mr. Weiss, the floor is yours, sir.
All right, good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Nice to see you all. I do look like I'm in a haunted house or something here this evening. I apologize for that. I'm Josh Weiss. I'm your lobbyist here in Olympia. And we're here to talk about the proposed legislative agenda for you for the 2025 legislative session. This has been put together by the Legislative Committee. And I really want to say thanks to the staff, Chris and Rob and Mark and everybody else that has put in time helping with this and our legislative subcommittee. For a little bit of context, most of you probably are aware that 2025 will be the long legislative session. It'll be 105 days. The state will be considering their biennial operating, transportation, and capital budgets. We expect it will be a fairly difficult legislative session. We continue to hear that the state is having revenues are not growing as fast as they had previously been projected for the next 4-year outlook, which basically means that the state is having a hard time keeping up with the increasing cost of inflation and caseload increases. We will see another revenue forecast from the State Economic Revenue Forecast Council here in 16 days on the 20th. That will be the final forecast that the governor will put together his proposal to send to the legislature. It'll be a sort of funny situation where we have a lame duck governor proposing a budget to the legislature that will likely rewrite it anyway. But we have already heard that the Governor's Office of Financial Management, which directs state agencies in their budget work, has asked for budget reduction proposals. So we actually are, for the first time since before the COVID pandemic, we're going to be seeing discussions around state budgets that are in reductions, not about additions. You had really good introductory conversation about the state of transportation revenue in the state. Transportation budget is in particularly difficult shape compared to their capital or even their operating budget. And that just was discussed before, the fact that we're seeing less gas tax revenue coming in. I think we don't know that they will be talking about a new transportation revenue package, but we think that they will. Not sure it'll get passed, but I think there will be some ideas put on the table about different ways that they can be funding transportation projects. And so as you look at this list, our first item on the proposed agenda for your discussion consideration is the Eden Boulevard reconstruction project. And I'm really recommending to all of my local government clients this session that even if we're not sure that we're going to be successful with transportation requests, we should have something that we're asking for in the event that they do get serious and want to think about funding new projects across the state. I think Eden's a really great project to be including on the list because it is about traffic safety. We know there's a lot of accidents at the intersection. There's also a pedestrian and multimodal transportation component to this, which is, relatively popular with the majority. And that is part of my job, is to take your most important requests and to make them as palatable as possible with the people that are writing the checks. So that's one of the reasons why I think that this is a good project. So that's the first item on the list. We also, and I should say, Mr. Mayor, I'm going to go through the list. If there's questions along the way, please feel free and just interrupt me, but I'll also take questions at the end, however you want to do it. We're also on the list proposing a request for some state capital budget funding for Remy Park. In my work with the city over the last 6 years, we have asked for a good amount of funding for different types of capital projects, but parks really haven't been much of a focus. Now that you have your park master plan completed, we really feel like this is a good time to be asking for some parks money as a priority for the city. This is basically for phase 1. We know this won't cover the full cost of the park, but it's for the first bite at the apple. It's a $1.5 million request, which for those of you that have worked with me before, you know that, or have worked in this space before, you know that each legislative district usually gets a little bit of money in the capital budget that legislators from that district get to designate how they want it spent, called local community projects. I think 1.5 million is probably it's a respectable amount of money. You're not going to get laughed out of the room for asking for that much money by appropriators, even though they have a declining budget this year. We also want to continue on. The next request is also for capital budget, and it is for the the design phase for the downtown revitalization project. If you recall, last year we received $350,000. Thanks to Senator Linda Wilson, made the request for us in the operating budget to complete the study for options for how to do revitalization downtown. As you know, the public engagement is underway right now, and we'll have the study completed before the end of legislative session. We want to get in front of that now and move ask the legislature to help us move into the design phase of the project. That's a $500,000 request. Do you think it's possible, that it's always possible in any legislative session that these may need to get scaled down? Your staff's well aware of that. We've worked on these kinds of projects before, and so prepared to have that conversation with our delegation if we need to, but that conversation won't happen until spring of next year when they're really starting to consider their budgets. The last main request is an operating budget request, and I just talked about how dire the state operating budget is looking, so want to make sure that everybody's expectations are realistic about this. But we have been asking for the last 2 years for help with the city's document management system. Cities have really traditionally come to the legislature asking for help dealing with public records compliance issues. A lot of times it comes in the form of asking for amendments to the policy law, to the Public Records Act itself. I think this puts the city in a really great position of saying you're not asking for policy changes, you just want help implementing the law. And this request would help you both, I'm missing the word, scan your documents so that you don't have to keep as many paper copies, and help with some of the software to help you comply with and meet public records requests. So those are the items that we're proposing that we would lead on. We also, as you know, you've discussed the Clark County Transportation Alliance. We're also listing on the second page that we support, to the degree that it's helpful for the city. We support the Association of Washington Cities legislative agenda. And we also want to make sure that our legislators, more broadly than even just our delegation, recognize that Battleground is a strong partner in the formation and use of the Regional Law Enforcement Training Academy, which is a model that the legislature is interested in. And I think having your support there is helpful and important. So that's what we've got in front of you, what we worked up for your consideration. I'd be happy to try and answer any questions, and we'll turn it back over to you, Mayor.
Open the floor up for any questions from council. Just so while I have been asked by the other mayors to actively lobby for that Regional Law Enforcement Training Academy. So having this listed on there helps me do that. So that's some of the reason why that's on there. Seeing no questions, I'd entertain a motion.
Move to approve the 2025 state legislative agenda as proposed.
I have a motion by Deputy Mayor Bowman, a second by Councilmember Cortez. Councilmember Ferrer, you had a discussion?
Yeah. So I just wanted to give a reason on why I'm going to be voting the way I'm doing, because again, I know you've made your arguments. I respect your arguments. But I just really wish we would have separated some of this stuff, because I'm all on board for the Regional Law Enforcement Training Academy. I'm obviously all on board for what Battleground needs. But again, my concerns is that we've lumped it together with 2 other items that I can't support, just because there's obviously I made my arguments for the CCTA, but then going to the AWC and some of the things that it's supporting, I can't support, for the revision of the property tax cap up to 3%. There's many, but just a few to name is the regulation of firearms that they're going to be lobbying for in certain public spaces. To me, that's proven that it doesn't work. We just had an incident, unfortunately, at the mall. We've had it at schools. That I support the second half of that statement, which is to help our prosecutors, give them the tools they need to go after people who have firearms that shouldn't. And then the public meetings. Another concern is they're going to be looking at possibly, going over public meetings and help address the trend of increasing disruptive activities and hate speech during public meetings. My concern is, what exactly, without knowing what their definition is going to be, what they're going to be lobbying for what disruptive activities are and what hate speech is. I can't I won't be able to vote on this.
Josh, if you would, what percentage of your time do you think you lobby on association AWC legislative agenda versus what we're asking for on our behalf?
Vast majority is spent on the items that are on page 1 of the list that are the battleground specific items. I was actually going to add, thank you for the question, Mayor. And just so you know, council member, on any of these individual items on the AWC or any other document, when they are become bills in front of the legislature, I make sure that I have direction from the city before I weigh in on any of those individual bills. So just just to be clear, I don't want you to think that because you approve reference to the AWC agenda that I'm just going to go off and lobby on all of these issues without further guidance and discussion and direction from the city manager. So not trying to definitely not arguing your position. I understand that very well, but I want to make sure that's very clear for you and everybody else that I'll make sure and get direction on anything that's not on the first page of the legislative agenda before we're taking positions on it.
And yeah, I would just add, I hear the concern. And for example, I think it was House Bill 1110, which was probably part of AWC's legislative agenda. I testified against it. So once it becomes a bill, then we will take action based on what we think is best for the city based on this council. So. Okay, I have a motion on the floor. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of approving the 2025 state legislative agenda as proposed, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Was that 2 nays, Councilmember Davis and Ferrer? Okay, passes 5-2.
Can I get a point of clarification real quick?
Mm-hmm.
Is it we don't have an attorney to answer. Is
He's
it
online.
appropriate to vote no on something that's already had action taken on it and approved by the council? So when you're voting no based upon the Clark County Transportation Alliance, that was already approved by the council. So at that point in time, you should be voting with the council's wishes at that time. Is that correct? And
I coming online here.
so I don't know if you heard my question. If we've already previously voted on something and it's been approved by the council, that now is council direction. So to vote no on another item based upon that same thing would not be appropriate to Robert's rules, correct?
I would have to know more about the context. I can't say that that a prior vote necessarily requires a consistent subsequent vote. In fact, I think generally speaking, a council member can vote his or her conscience on any matter that comes before the council, even if it does appear to contradict a prior vote. It may lead to inconsistency, but I don't think there's anything in Robert's Rules of Order that would require that. And I apologize, Councilmember, I didn't hear you directing that question to me, or I would have jumped in a little sooner there.
Yeah.
Fine.
Okay.
Good.
Yep.
Do you have some? Go ahead.
In answer to that question, when this came up a year ago, I asked the same question. If I voted no on the CCTA and it came to the agenda and it was approved, is that now null and void? And I was told at the time that I can always vote no, even though it passed. My vote was against it. So therefore it's still going to be against that. So I actually am interested because I was under the impression that I very well could vote no, even though the prior motion had just happened. So that would be interesting to find out differently.
I would like to know that because later on tonight, we're gonna talk 1%. And so if you vote no against the 1% and the 1% passes, is it appropriate to vote no against the budget because it has the 1% in it?
Well, and again, my point would be that I do not think there's anything that necessarily requires or commits a council member to maintain consistency between subsequent items and successive votes, it does, I understand, Councilmember Bowman, it does lead to potential uncertainty, I guess, regarding the council member's intentions. But unless there is a matter that somehow changes the rights of the issue, you know, say for instance, a contract or something like that that is voted upon and establishes legal rights independently of the vote. Otherwise, I don't think there's anything that necessarily forecloses a subsequent inconsistent vote.
That moves us on. We all good? That moves us on to citizens communications. Do we have a couple of people on Zoom? I don't have any signed up in person. Is that correct?
That is correct. We have 2 people on Zoom.
Okay, let me
Mr.
read my
Mayor.
spiel then, and I'll now open the meeting for citizens communications. Individuals are limited 3 minutes to provide comments. The total time for public comment shall not exceed 30 minutes unless extended by the mayor. This is an opportunity to hear from members of the public in a limited public forum, not an opportunity for extended comments or dialogue. Please refrain from derogatory remarks, personal attacks, campaign speeches, and applause. Although city council desires to allow public comment, the city's business must proceed in an orderly, timely manner. All comments should be directed to the mayor. The council may not be able to respond to individual comments and may refer citizens to a staff member for assistance. If you have handouts, please hand them to the city clerk. That's going to be hard on Zoom, directly to the right of the podium. Thank you for your understanding and participating in the council meeting. And we will go to Zoom, and please state your name when we unmute you, or I'll let Ms. Halili take that over from here. Guess I didn't have to read that.
Ms. Smith, you have been admitted. However, I cannot see your audio. Mr. Mayor, I will let the next person in.
Okay.
Dr. Osmussen, you are unmuted and
Yes.
your public comment starts now.
Hello? Hello? Hello, can you hear me?
Mr. Osmussen, the council cannot hear you speaking.
Dr. Osmussen, you are. Okay, I can hear you and I am not muted. Hello?
The council still cannot hear you, Mr. Osmussen. I'm going to go ahead and have you stop and perhaps try to fix your audio while we move forward with public comment.
Anybody in the room that wants to speak their mind, now would be the time?
Didn't we have this issue when we popped up? I know
Was with the
before, when we
voting.
popped up the monitor, that it was cutting out. It was cutting out the.
Maybe take the timer off and
Take
we
the
can
timer
keep,
off.
we can keep time. I'll keep my mic active and get a timer going. How's that? Winter.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Mr.
Yeah, we can-
Osmussen, we can hear you, sir.
we can
Please
hear
go
you.
ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. It wouldn't allow me to get on, sorry. I'm Dr. Osmundson, Bill Osmundson. I'm a retired dentist of 36 years. For the first 25 years, I promoted water fluoridation. Now, when it comes to laws, they're a work in progress and sometimes they need to be changed. Science is no different. As we get information in science, sometimes it surprises us and we have to change our policies because of new science. When I was in school, 50% of what we were taught, according to my professor, was wrong. They just didn't know which 50% was wrong, and that is something we needed to find out later. Let me use an illustration of fluoridation. It's somewhat like the bloodletting of years ago, which lasted for about 3,000 years. It helped people get better, they thought. They gave it credit. And of course, if someone died, then that was just God's will. But it did help, and there was lots of testimonials, and it was successful. Fluoridation is the same thing. You know, when I was promoting fluoridation, I really thought I could see the benefit in my patients. They would have better teeth, but was it fluoridation or something else? Unfortunately, we have not had good science in fluoridation. The FDA has not approved swallowing fluoride. We've used lower quality to assume that fluoridation was beneficial. Just recently, the U.S. District Court ruled that fluoridation is an unreasonable risk to the developing brain of a fetus. If a mother just swallows 1 quart of water a day, or a liter, that will cause a roughly 3 IQ point loss for her baby. If she drinks 2 liters, which is often the case for a pregnant woman, then she will often, that baby will often have about 7 IQ loss. And if she drinks more, even more IQ loss. This is something we didn't know about years ago. Although the National Research Council had given us a list of maybe 12 things that would cause a problem. Almost every cell of the body is harmed. We as dentists never really seriously looked at harm. You don't sell things by looking at harm. Now, when I look back, I realize that we dentists make millions of dollars in our lifetime selling fluoride and then treating the harm from the fluoride. We win both ways. The city needs to stop fluoridation. Decay won't go up. Portland has this very similar decay as,
Thank you.
I don't know where my time is on this thing. Sorry. Anyway,
We couldn't show it. I tried to give a 1-minute warning, but yeah, that is your 3 minutes. You're welcome to always email the council and we can pass along any further information you didn't get to. Should we try the other person on Zoom? And if you watch your camera, I'll try to give you a 1-minute warning. The person that we didn't have audio for last time.
Miss Beth Smith, are you having difficulty? It appears that you're having difficulty with your audio. I'm not seeing any audio. You are unmuted.
Okay.
Thank you for attempting to provide public comment, Ms. Smith. I am now removing you from the meeting.
And again, Ms. Smith, you're welcome as well to send in any comments that you didn't get to. That concludes public comments. That brings us consent agenda. Any member of council believe any item needs to be withdrawn from the consent agenda?
I'd like to remove items G through I from the consent agenda.
Okay. Any other removals needed? Hearing none, to entertain a motion for the approval of the balance.
Second.
I have a motion for approval of consent agenda items A through F and J through M, made by Deputy Mayor Bowman, seconded by our Councilmember Cortez. All those in favor, please say aye.
Can I?
Hold just a second. We remove your items.
Oh, you did. Oh,
We're voting on the items that were not removed.
oh, okay.
All those in favor of approving items A through F and J through M, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carry 7-0. Okay, now items G, H, and I. Councilmember Ferrer, the floor is yours.
Okay, I had some questions on these items. So here we go. The first one was, what are the city's performance standards for public defenders? For example, caseloads, time spent with each client, quality of representation and ethical guidelines. How long a case can be open, which I know would vary depending on the case. But yeah, those are just some examples I had or questions before I entertain a motion to approve those. I don't know. I wanted to talk to you, but schedule was crazy and the new, weekly meeting that you changed the hours to just wasn't going to work for me. So I do apologize for springing this on people during this meeting.
Public defenders, it's mandatory for the Constitution that those without means get representation, and it's afforded to them by the judge at his discretion. I can tell you about 95 to 99% of criminal cases are afforded a public defender. There are caseload standards where they cannot accept more than 400 cases per year. It's also on a point system, but roughly it's about 400 cases per year. I know in the past few meetings, we've been discussing the caseload. We do have 3 of these that were gracious enough to provide public defense services. I can tell you they are in great demand right now. We haven't done an RFP, I believe since 2020. Their contracts are the same rate, which is $300 per case, which if you were to look at other communities, that is a fantastic deal for us. And it's been that same rate since 2021. There was discussion from one public defender in particular who wanted to negotiate a new rate, which is fair. But we asked that this late in the game, since these are year-to-year contracts, that he wait as well as the others for next year. So we, in all fairness, should be discussing an increase from that rate, which has been the same since 2021. I don't know if that answers your questions, but a lot of this is driven by Constitution and law and judges' discretion. And we have to provide a public defender and pay for that. That's just a constitutional right.
I was just wondering because we go through this, we do these contract updates, and I'm just wondering what the standards are for updating some of these contracts. And, what's the guidelines that we're using for, before we just, let's just sign off on these people because they've been here for X amount of years. I mean, and the only reason I'm asking this because there has been, things that have come to my attention. So that's why I ask it. Yeah.
I also should offer that the state Supreme Court is actually discussing lowering the number of cases that a public defender can take, which is really going to be taxing on us. We don't have enough public defenders out there right now. But feedback to the court was due October 31. I know that Carol in our court did provide some comments and allowed us to review those. We also do receive quite a bit of funding for public defense. So it's not that we're completely out of pocket with the general fund on this.
Yeah, I do remember, I did read up on that they're lowering the caseload. I'm like, oh my gosh, we've been talking about that. But yeah, my concern, I'm just voicing it since we're on the consent agenda, that I do have concern with just signing off on this, some of these positions, because without having to be able to, look more in depth on, the individuals and, I mean, so I guess one of the questions that hasn't been answered yet is, what do we as Battleground, do we have any ethical guidelines that we're looking at to see that, based on these outcomes? Like, for example, do we have an oversight committee on, or a board to review these public defenders and maybe examine their case outcomes? How much time did they spend on these cases? How long were they open?
Maybe that's a good question for Mr. Harper. I'm guessing maybe the Bar Association deals a lot with the ethical standards of the defenders, but maybe you could weigh in on what's appropriate for the city council, how into the weeds we should get on on this judicial aspect.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Thanks, Mayor. Well, and Councilman Farrer, what I would really want you to be aware of is that the State Bar Association has been very active, as has the State Supreme Court, in establishing standards. Your question was specifically, what are performance standards for management of indigent defense contracts and performance of indigent defense services? And I would be happy to provide to Chris for subsequent review by you a copy of those standards. They're really pretty readable. There's a lot that's developing in this area right now, as Chris points out. But the basic source of the duty is established by those standards as enforced by the Supreme Court. So there is really clear guidance. And one of the things I think is most important to understand is that there is an expectation that municipalities will have indigent defense standards and indigent defense funding that provides for vigorous defense activity. And that includes things like assertive challenging of prosecution cases, making good decisions, spending time with clients, making sure clients understand their options in a defense context, and then also having just as much independence by indigent defense lawyers as by prosecutors. So it's really important that there be good funding and good safeguards so that indigent defense does not become in any way, shape, or form politicized, and those standards help provide those guardrails. So to go further than that, I think it would really help if you had access to the standards, and then we could discuss that in more detail.
So thank you for that. So you had mentioned client, the job obviously of a defender is to provide the understanding to their clients on what their options are. So I would love to table this for maybe even just next meeting. I know we have time to do this. It's not, it doesn't start until January. So we still have the whole month, the rest of November, December, just so I can get access to that information before I sign off on this, because yeah, I would, yeah.
Deputy Mayor.
Well, I don't want to call people out. Okay, I can give information. I don't like to call people out and
I would,
feel like
let's be careful here.
yeah, exactly. That's my concern. Yeah.
Well, you put it out.
But I'm also being respectful to the individuals as well.
Well,
It's one of three.
The concern I have with this is, number one, if stuff is on the consent agenda, it's supposed to be stuff that's fairly easy to pass. If you had a question about consent agenda items, you should have got a hold of the city manager. You could have called her, you could have sent her an email. You could have asked these questions and had something prepared for us at this time. So just because you're not prepared to vote on this because of something you've heard, it's concerning to me that you didn't do your due diligence and reach out to staff to give them the opportunity to look this stuff up, or to have Mr. Harper weigh in on his opinion and see what we're doing. So my concern is that we're actually talking about certain individuals that are public defenders that we have contracts with, and when that's not our, I think I'd be very careful getting into a legal war with an attorney if you're not an attorney.
If we have nothing to do with it, then why are we even consenting?
Because we
to it if
approve
it's
those
not our-
contracts.
So then why are we, if it's not our job, then why are we approving anything? And we should just be giving it to them.
Here's the thing that Mr. Harper touched on. I think we need to be very careful. There are obviously three branches of government: judicial, legislative. We're the legislative branch. If we're going to start getting the quality control of our defense attorneys, I have huge issues with that. We should be completely separate from this. The Bar Association should monitor their own. We should not in any way, shape, or form, in my opinion, start putting quality control. And we didn't do it on our prosecuting attorneys. So right now we've put ourselves in jeopardy because you did not pull the prosecuting attorney off. You just pulled the defense attorneys off. So I believe you put us in jeopardy.
Okay. You're entitled.
Aren't they hard to come by too?
So they're
Very.
very hard to come by, and especially for that price, almost impossible to come by. So with that, I would entertain a motion.
Second. Derek's got it.
Who had this,
Eric.
motion by
Eric.
Councilmember Cortez. So who was the second? Councilmember Overholzer. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
One nay. Councilmember Ferrer. Brings us to public hearings, and we will take a break after, well, depending on how the public hearings go, but we'll try to schedule it for 8:30. Apologize for the length that this is going. Brings us to public hearings. First one is Resolution 2412. And do we have any presentation on that, or are we just going to open the public hearing?
Correct.
Just open it
the
up?
Public hearing, yeah.
Okay. So let's go ahead and open the public hearing at 8:20 PM for public testimony. Individuals are limited 3 minutes to provide comment on the proposed revenue sources, Resolution 24-12, 2025 fee schedule. And do we have anybody online or in person that would like to speak towards this?
No one online, Mr. Mayor.
Seeing none in person, I will close the public hearing at 8:21 PM. And council will now approve consider the approval of Resolution 2412.
No,
Nope, I'm
Mr.
sorry.
Mayor.
What am I on?
It's on the next
The
one.
resolution and ordinances, yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah, we will consider well, I wasn't finished saying what I was going to say. We will consider the approval of Resolution 2412 at the November 18th council meeting. All right. This brings us to, I will now open the public hearing at 8:21 PM for public testimony. Individuals are limited 3 minutes to provide comment on the proposed revenue sources, ordinance 2024-11, 2025 property tax levy. Anybody online and in person that would like to speak to this?
No one online, Mr. Mayor.
Any other members of the public? Seeing none. Seeing no further members of the public wishing to speak, I will now close the public hearing at 8:22 PM. And do we need to read that title?
Ordinance number 2024-11, an ordinance levying the annual property tax to provide revenue for the city of Battle Ground, Washington for the fiscal year ending December 31, 2025.
And the council will consider that adoption 2411 at the November 18th council meeting. Is that correct?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. And have we received any communication regarding business items, Ms. Lely?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. So before we go on to the capital facility public plan, maybe we'll take a quick 5-minute break. It's 8:23. We'll be back here at 8:28 and resume then. Thank you. Okay, it's 8:28. Meeting's now back in session. At this point, we're up to the facilities capital plan update presentation. Mr. Herzig, do you have anything to add, or do we just calling for the public hearing?
We're gonna do I'm just gonna do a quick presentation and then the public hearing will be at the December meeting.
Okay. And Mark, well, that's fine. We'll get it after. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
And I'll keep this relatively brief and kind of high level, so please, if you have any detailed questions, let me know. But so for the facilities capital plan, I'll talk about why we're doing it, the contents, talk about a few sections, a summary, and then we can do questions. Why we do it, it's a guide to kind of future improvements at our city facilities. It also allows us to use REIT dollars to fund the projects. So we have a condition assessment of the various buildings. Then there's specific details about each of our buildings. Brief discussion about ops expansion. That's a bit of a placeholder right now. So we're working on the master plan for that. It's not quite ready. So there's a placeholder in the plan for that. And then you have the 3 appendices, which are the specific condition assessments, the photos, and the costs. So our ops manager, Grant, went through all the buildings and did this. And so on the screen here, you can see a summary of all of our buildings. Generally, we're in the good category. As you can probably expect, some of the buildings at ops are in the critical category, but everything else is in relatively good shape. In Appendix A, like I said, you can see for all the buildings, Grant went through and looked at all of the systems. So electrical, windows, anything you can think of got rated. There's essentially a cost estimate and then a projected action year. Right now, those action years are based on kind of industry standards for life. As we get closer, the systems get looked at again just to make sure, you know, something's supposed to last 15 years. We get to that 15th year. We just don't necessarily replace it because it's at that 15th year. It gets looked at again, but it kind of gives us a guide for when things would be needed and gives us the ability to kind of plan for it. So kind of in summary, it creates a roadmap for our projects and our funding. We'll do a little more financial analysis, work with Megan to figure out what exactly REIT can be used for, and so that will get added to the plan. And then my only request is that council make a motion to set a public hearing for the December 2nd meeting. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Motions by Deputy Mayor Bowman, seconds by Councilmember Cortez. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Passes 7-0. Are the next two just as brief? If not, I was going to move up the senior.
Yeah, they'll be
Okay.
just as brief. Fact for the next one, I don't even have a presentation. All we did to change the plan is Megan kind of talked about it. We're using park impact fees for some of the budgeted projects for next year. So those were made, added to the plan and then clarified in the plan so that they match up with the budget Megan presented. So that would be the only change for that plan.
Any questions for Mr. Herzig? Otherwise, I entertain a motion.
Set a public hearing on the Parks and Recreation Open Space Plan update on the December 2nd council.
Second.
A motion by Deputy Mayor Bowman, a second by Councilmember Ferrer. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. And once more, Mr. Herzig.
All right, the next one, give me a second to pull this up. So I'll be presenting the Fire District's capital facilities plan. Division Chief Chris Drone is here in case you have any questions that I can't answer. So computer's freezing. Okay, very similar to our capital facilities plan. This is for the fire district. I'll do a similar kind of look at theirs. Why they do it, it's compliance with the Growth Management Act. It ensures that growth over the next 20 years is adequately planned and paid for. And then it allows Fire District 3 to collect fire impact fees. They've essentially got five sections that deal with inventory, capital projects, their future needs forecast, financing, and then they will do a periodic review. So their capital outlay, they have several building remodels or new fire stations. And then there's several vehicles that they'll need over the next 20-year period. In total, that will be about $33 million worth of capital outlay. Their future needs, so they analyzed both based on level of service and forecasted calls. They used the county's growth information to figure out new residential units and square footage of commercial facilities, commercial and industrial. They had determined that 40% of that capital outlay could be attributed to growth, which is about $13 million. And then they have a breakdown of the new growth, which is about 64% single family, 11% multifamily, and then 26% non-residential. So you do all of that, look at our fire impact fee formula, which is in the city's code. You take the 20-year cost, multiply it by that land use percentage, and then divide it by the future 20-year growth, either units or square footage. So what that results in is a fire impact fee of $992 per house. It's currently $696. For multifamily, it's $505 per unit compared to the $327 now. And then the non-residential is $1.36 per square foot, and it's 85 cents now. So summary, it's required by GMA through RCW. The plan incorporates the capital outlay, allows them to get a fire impact fee, meaning growth pays for growth. And again, I have a similar request to set the public hearing for the December 2nd meeting. Any questions?
Motion to set a public hearing for the fire capital facility plan update on December 2nd.
Second. You got it. I have a motion by Councilmember Ferrer, second by Councilmember DeRochers to set a public hearing to hear public testimony on the fire capital facilities plan update, December 2nd city council meeting. Any other further questions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. A lot of work encapsulated in all those plans, so don't mean to rush through them, but they does not coincide with the amount of work that went into them. So thank you for that. Next up, our city manager has a presentation, I believe.
Thank you, Mayor McCoy. I'm going to give you just a brief background on this subject with the Senior Center Facility Use Agreement. Back in August 2021, Council passed a resolution to establish a program to assist senior citizen groups with rental reimbursement at the Senior Center and at the Community Center. The reimbursement program required the activities be open to all senior citizens and prohibited entry or membership fees to attend activities. The reimbursement program was not to exceed $8,000 and was initially set to expire December 31st, 2023. On September 6, 2022, Council passed another resolution providing a continued annual allotment of the $8,000 for the senior reimbursement program and extending the expiration date of the annual program to December 31st, 2028. On September 5th, 2023, just last year, the council passed a resolution increasing the annual allotment to $12,000 and extending the expiration date to December 31, 2033. And then on June 17th of this year, council made a motion to increase the amount available for the rental fee reimbursement to seniors by $5,000 for a total of $17,000 for 2024. The motion also amended the agreement to end the rental fee reimbursement program on December 31st of this year. At the same meeting, council directed staff to find best practices for facility use of senior centers and other communities and to bring back a recommendation before the end of this year. That brings us to tonight's meeting. I want to give just a little bit of legislative history to get some context as to how these centers were constructed and built in communities. During the 1979 Washington State Legislative Session, state law was created that authorized counties and cities to establish and administer senior citizen programs and to expend their own funds for such purposes, as well as to expend federal, state, or private funds that are made available for such purposes. That's codified in Title 36. Later that year in 1979, during a general election that was held on November 6, 1979, a ballot proposition was approved by voters in the city of Battle Ground to issue $140,000 in bonds over 20 years to construct a 2,400 square foot building for senior citizen activities. Also at that time, the nonprofit Battleground Senior Citizen Association committed $10,000 of their own money to furnish the senior center. 2 years later, in November 1981, the city of Battleground entered into an agreement with the Senior Citizens Association, granting them rent-free use of the senior center and establishing responsibilities to each party, including maintenance, operations, and finances. The purpose of that agreement was for the city to provide its senior citizens with an opportunity to join with other senior citizens of the community for social, cultural, health education, and recreational activities. Fast forward to March 1982, construction of the senior center was completed and the Battleground Senior Association enjoyed full use of the senior center facility currently located on 3rd Avenue. In about 20 years ago, in 2004, a community development block grant was awarded to the city of Battleground to remodel the senior center and provide for much needed updates. Those grant funds had to be used to meet one of 3 national objectives. One of those objectives is to benefit low to moderate income individuals, and citizens over 65 are assumed and considered to be low to mod income. This federal investment was granted solely because the city of Battleground provides a facility for social services to its senior citizens. This year, during the legislative session, an award of $300,000 was appropriated by the state to remodel the senior center with the understanding the facility was used for senior citizens who, quote, participate in weekly arts and crafts, card games, exercise classes, lunches, and board meetings. Council, the genesis of this building was because of senior citizens. The voters were clear about this commitment. Funds to renovate the senior citizen center since 1982 have been because of senior citizens. It seems appropriate to allow senior citizens in the Battleground community to utilize the senior center for their social and educational activities. I'll tell you, Battleground has one of the largest, most active senior citizens group in this area. At last count, a few months ago, I was provided a membership roster and it reflected a total of about 385 senior citizen members. Of those 385 members, 202 seniors live in the city limits of Battleground. Yet 157 seniors live in the rural areas of Battleground and the unincorporated areas of Clark County, the remainder being in Clark County, other Clark County cities. My understanding today is that membership is over 500 members. 550 members, you heard it. So with that, staff recommends council approve the facility use agreement between the city of Battleground and the Battleground Senior Citizens, Inc. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Deputy Mayor Bowman.
Thank you for doing the legwork on that. It's going back a long ways. What is the capacity of the senior center? Do we know roughly? Because it's not 20, would they say 2,800 square feet?
Yeah, that's Chris.
Okay.
I'd have to look. There's a sign inside. We just were there a week ago. I can't remember what it is.
What's the parking capacity?
Not enough.
Don't get us started.
That's
It's not enough.
That's the issue that I think we need to look at. I'm all for this and you know, letting the seniors have it. And I know I can't remember, Mr. Cortez, you were here when they came and presented a check and they'd bought a bunch of tables and chairs, and it's been a few years ago, but you know, I think it's a good place for them, but I think we need to look at potentially, you know, increasing parking in that area. I know there's some lots just to the south of there, big lots, that potentially could be subdivided and maybe add parking around there. And I know also that it's on our plan of Second Avenue shows going through to the senior center. So there may be a way to it's not going to be an easy fix and it's not going to be quick, but I think that's something that we should look at as we're going forward, because if they were at 200 and something and they're at 550 now, it's going to get bigger, and I think parking's going to be an issue there. So I'd love for us to take a look at that too in the future. But I think it's a great building. It's a great place for them to be. And I think it gets us out of renting to them and allow them to use it as it was intended. Thank you.
Councilmember Fur.
Yeah, I'll just add to that I'm really excited to vote yes on this one, because I've been wanting to see it given to them for since I've been on council. So I'm excited to say yes to this. I did have one question though, for just a point of clarity, really simple. I was looking at the rates broken down. It said, I can't remember, I was looking for it right now because the thing has changed, but I think it was like $42 an hour, but then it said 4-hour minimum Friday after 2 p.m. and then Saturday and Sunday. Like, so are we, because you gave us, the breakdown in hours. I know that probably doesn't pertain necessarily to that, but I was just wondering, I mean, you gave it to us, so this seemed like a perfect opportunity to ask that question. Does that mean that normally you don't have to do Monday through Thursday? They don't, when people rent out the facility, and I think that's more like the event center, maybe it's not necessarily senior, right? That it's not, you don't need a 4-hour minimum, and it's only Fridays after 2 and then Saturdays and Sundays?
You're talking about groups other than the senior citizens who, yeah, I mean, we're still going to keep that the same. It's why we solidified hours in here, because we still want to honor those long-term rentals that we still have. And talking with the senior citizens group, they're okay with that. They also put in here under section 1 that they're free to use the senior center as long as there's no other booking that's in there outside of these hours. And then if we had someone who wants to come in there and rent the facility Monday through Thursday during the day, I mean, I think that this is something we'll be able to work out with them and talk with them about. The recreation manager will be the liaison to this group, just like that person is now, and working out all the events that we have at the senior center now. Like, we just had one pop-up for a memorial service who wanted to use the senior center just yesterday.
Okay.
So
I just wanted to make sure that I was reading that correctly. 4 hours minimum, Fridays after 2, and then anytime, all day, Saturday and Sunday, it's a 4-hour minimum.
I'd have to look.
Okay.
I've been looking at rooms and rentals for the community center and senior center for the last 3 weeks straight,
Okay.
since I've been filling in for Kim Cedar-Home, who's off right now. So
Okay.
it depends on if you're a one-time rental
Right.
or a long-term. There's different rates for that.
Right. All right. We'll touch bases tomorrow.
I think the intent, if I'm not mistaken, is to have the seniors be the trustees essentially of this building, Monday through Friday up till 2 or noon on Friday. Essentially, it is their show rent-free. We're not charging them anything. After that, historically, they have not used it on Friday nights or weekends. However, if they want to, it's still theirs to use. However, if it's rented out, here are the restrictions and covenants for anybody who's not a senior to rent it and to access the facilities. Is that fairly?
That's correct. The seniors have really been trustees 24/7 for that facility. They care for it like it's their own home. And so I have no doubt that they're going to continue to take care of that, and we'll conduct business the way we have. Only we're going to get rid of this reimbursement program, which was a wash anyway, and revert this back to what its genesis was.
And Megan, this is a lot cleaner from an accounting standpoint, I take it?
Yeah.
I figured so. So I figured that might be answer that question. And, you know, there's been a lot of confusion going back and forth. And so I really appreciate the research that went into this. And I'm hoping that council, having been provided that roadmap, will approve this proposal. Councilmember Overholzer.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, thanks, Chris, for digging into that 45-year history of the Battleground Senior Center. And yeah, I think this is a pivotal moment here where we're actually honoring the wishes of the people of Battleground voted 45 years ago, and we're now amending it to reflect the respect that we have for our seniors. The fact that we have over 200 seniors that live inside the city limits and almost 400 total. That's something that I think as a city we should be proud of, and we should honor that and be respectful of that. So with that, I'd like to move to approve the senior center facility use agreement as presented.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Overholzer and an immediate second by Councilmember Fur. Only all the seconds were that quick. Okay, any other further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Carry 7-0. And thank you for everybody who put all the hard work in on both sides. So just thank you and look forward to maybe making Shane build a shed out back. I think that's what we're, yeah. That's what I heard tonight for storage. So
I was looking at you, Mayor.
Shane will fund the shed is what I heard.
You didn't see me, Mayor, but I was looking at you and we both said.
Yeah, I was saying it too.
Yeah, I
Okay,
saw you, yeah.
that brings us to administrative reports.
I got a few things. I'm going to try to rattle through this quickly. First, I want to talk about last Thursday night, which was Fright Night. Thank you to the Battleground Festivals group for planning the Main Street Trick or Treat event, and to all the staff and volunteers. We had quite a few at the community center, and it really made it a success. I think we had just shy of 900 people come through the doors in a short 2-hour period, no matter how windy and rainy it was. So it was great to see so many people come out. I appreciate all the businesses along Main Street, and certainly the ones that decided to brave the weather out in the parking lot with Trunk or Treat. And also C-Tran came and provided a haunted bus, which was really interesting, parked alongside the street. We had generous donors for candy. We had the Rockery that provided 150 bags of candy. We had former Mayor Philip Johnson. When I called him and I said, we're a little short on candy, came through with about 35 pounds of extra candy. And certainly Albertson, Safeway, Walmart, and Fred Meyer provided dozens and dozens of cake and pastries for the cake walk. So that was a huge success. Right on the heels of that, flip the room around. Thank you to Deputy Mayor Bowman and former Mayor Johnson for sticking in with us late that night and flipping the room around so that we can enjoy a holiday bazaar the next day on Saturday, or on Friday as well as Saturday. So between all the bazaars in this city, I think we were probably busier than any city in this region on Saturday, the 2nd. So just a quick update on Kiwanis Park improvements. The contractor did submit an updated critical path schedule that indicated that the project should be substantially completed by January 30th of 2025. This delay has been due in part, I think, to some permit corrections. And so that's about 2, maybe 3 months longer than initially stated. Mayor McCoy has asked me to set up a study session, the first meeting of January, to have Public Works provide information on the fluoridation of the city's water, testing and operational requirements, etc. This has been a council member requests to bring this topic up for discussion, so we'll plan on that January 6th for a study session. And then I'd like to broach a subject with you. I think I've talked with all of you individually or together at some point, and that is renaming of the community center. Since I've been spending a lot of time there last 3 weeks, I've noticed that the title itself is confusing. Community center connotes a building that is a public location where members of the community can freely gather for group activities, social support, after hours programs for teenagers. We get calls about, do you have a pool, etc. I think that another title such as event center, sometimes it's called convention center, those tend to be larger, may be a better title for that building. Events is not really open to the public, so to speak. It really is a building that is offered to groups, public or private, to rent on a daily or a weekly basis. We do have some long-term rentals, but it is not really open to the public on a daily basis at times because we have events scheduled there. And so they have exclusive use of those rooms because they pay for them. I'm going to stop there to see if you have any feedback or questions about that.
Yes, on event center for me.
I'm the
MS.
same. I think it's better served to be an event center, and it makes it sound like it is what it is. I mean, you can't just go in there. You got to book it to be able to use it. So I think it's better that it's an event center.
Unless the people that do this more often think convention center, event and convention center, whatever markets it better to me. I agree with the community center getting off there, and whether it's event or convention center, I don't.
Thumbs up.
So was that a motion to
You need a
rename
motion or just
the-
direction to staff to go for it?
I think it would be interesting to see, we do, and I think Mark and them, I think you remember the namings. It might be interesting to see if we have we have historical naming for some of these historical things in town, whether it be streets or we did the Bill Ganley public safety complex, something like that. That would be something I would be kind of interested to see what names we have left on that list. And
We
maybe,
got rid of the list.
did we get rid of the list?
Well, so that I had this information because I thought you might bring this up. There was an ordinance, there's ordinance from 2016. There's also resolutions from 2008 and 2009. Some of these are separate in how you might name a facility or a park versus just streets. But ultimately, the renaming of a city park or facility would require that the proposed name be included on the city council naming list that the PACE board would review the proposed name and provide a recommendation, and then the city council subsequently would act upon that recommendation. I think what you're alluding to was prior to the 2016 ordinance. We have, part of this is codified right now in the Battleground Municipal Code. But I did bring up that resolution that you were alluding to, and it does speak, it has very detailed information. If you want to go down this road of naming a park, facility, or a street after an individual, it did, in one case, have a lot of names, primarily historical names, those people that settled here or.
That's how we got Eaton Boulevard. That's how we got Onsdorf and Scott. We may have removed the mayor names at that.
I think we removed the list and just said historically significant, just so that we weren't adding or forgetting anybody.
So because at that time, we just had a list of names that we really had, and a lot of us didn't know who they were. And so. I
Philip
think-
might, he was pretty old.
Well, but I think that's, but I think it'd be interesting to see, you know,
Okay.
potentially. I know it was a big deal when we did it for, and the challenge is most of the time we do this is after they've passed, you know, that was a pretty cool thing to do when we did it for Bill before he passed away. So, you know, I think it'd be interesting to see personally myself.
I think during that discussion in 2022, that resolution in 2009 was referenced by the city council. And it stated that the city council wishes to update the resolution to provide a framework for selecting historical names that can progress with time. And the council has determined to be considered an historical name, the impact or historically significant event had to have occurred 30 years prior. So there was some more context given to that.
I think we need to, my suggestion is just to deal with these two at a time, like, let's maybe have another discussion about naming of city facilities. But I think seems like there's consensus on going down the road of the event center. I would like to ask you, Chris, and maybe double check, when we opened up the community center, we received a rather large federal earmark from Senator Patty Murray, and thus we named the pavilion the Patty Murray Pavilion. So make sure there's no issues with that when we're renaming it to an event center.
The patio.
Right? That's terrible.
So are
Councilmember
you
Davis,
looking
you
for
had
a motion, Chris? Do you need a motion? on this,
Councilmember
or-
Davis had, did you have something?
Oh, sorry.
Well, I hit it earlier, but I would like also to, whoever, think of it as a battleground event center. I'm partial to name recognition, promoting our own city. I know there are event centers with people's name, and that's here, now there. Whatever happens, I would like that to be part of it as really showcase our town. And that would be the Battleground Event Center. So that's just another idea.
Yeah, I agree with that. I like, you know, kind of reinforcing our community in that building. But, there you have it.
So do you need a motion, Chris?
No, I think I have direction. That concludes my report, Mayor.
Okay, that brings us to council communications. Are there any council member communications this evening?
I have one.
Okay.
So as all the council and the city manager are aware, we've received an email from a battleground citizen in regarding fluoride. For those listening, the email shared, I'm not going to go into details, but it shared a case decision on September 24th of this year. The U.S. District Court of the Northern District of California ruled that water fluoridation at current levels present an unreasonable risk to children's health. I'm respectfully asking council to consider having a workshop like other cities that are doing that in our state right now. I know that Camas has one coming up in December. There's also Longview, I think has one coming up in December or January. I believe Port Orchards just had one, or they're having one. And I just looking at a little bit of history on, because I'm new to the whole fluoride thing. So looking at cities that have moved away from fluoride in our state, I know that, you know, there's a list that's gone on. Some of, just to name a couple, is like Forks, Port Angeles, and Parkland, Bellingham. So I was just wondering if we could, if you guys would entertain a workshop at the convenience, obviously, of staff, because it's their time that I would be requesting, and I want to be totally sympathetic to your guys' time. And I know that you guys already have things planned, so I would ask maybe like in 90 days or within 90 days or something like that.
The city manager already said.
Oh, what?
It was part of my administrative report. I probably blew through it so quickly, but I had said that the mayor had asked me to set up a workshop for January 6th and that Public Works would be providing information on the fluoridation of our city water.
It's that word floor. I'm sorry, my hearing is so bad. So if you're too, like that one gentleman who spoke, I couldn't hear anything he said. I probably need hearing aids. Forgot my glasses today, so I haven't even been able to see
So,
anything.
and that,
Okay, I do
the-
apologize for that. I did hear something that you said about January 6th workshop, but I didn't hear the word fluoridation, so I do apologize.
and what I've asked the city manager is to just have the Public Works give a basic overview of what we do and the rest of the time is yours.
Okay, okay. Thank you, Mayor.
Yep.
Thank you.
Got something, Troy.
Yep.
Um,
Councilmember, was that the only thing?
Yeah.
Okay. Councilmember Overholzer?
Yeah, this was something that was brought to me by some local citizens. It was made aware to me that there are many city councils across the state and county councils that begin their city council meetings with prayer. And I just wanted to ask or direct staff to look into what it would take to bring prayer back to the Battleground City Council proceedings as part of the opener, I guess, the initial prior to either the Pledge of Allegiance or the roll call, put it up there in the front to start us off on the right foot. I do understand that this is open to all religions, and I would prefer it to be that way. So just wanted to see if you guys could look into that for us.
Is this something council wants to pursue?
I'm okay with that. I mean, it's religious freedom. People can join in and they don't, and they don't have to, just like we do a Pledge of Allegiance. People don't have to do it if they don't feel like standing up and doing it. So. Sorry, you're like, don't say that.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I said I believe strongly in the separation of church and state, but I appreciate that he brought it forward for the citizens that he mentioned.
For myself, I'd like to see what staff brings back as far as who else is doing this. Because I know it opens up a lot more than just what some people would consider prayer. It can open up a lot of different things. And so to see what that looks like, and then I would like to have more outreach in the community with some of our pastors. I know I've talked to some this last week about this subject myself, and where that goes and what that looks like and what it could entail may not necessarily be what we intended it to be. And so I would like to see who else is doing it, what policies they have in place, how that fits in with First Amendment rights, those type of things, what we can and can't do before making a decision on it.
And I would just ask, what's the goal?
Just to allow any recognized religion or body of church to come and bless us with their prayer and open our proceedings with that. I know, again, this came up because Clark County Council does this currently, and it was a local thing that I met with a gentleman that attends the Clark County prayer. And he asked if we'd ever consider opening our proceedings with prayer. And I said, I'll look into it. I think it's a great idea. So I know the city of Longview used to do it as well. So that's why I inquired to Chris. She might have some knowledge on some of that. So just wanted to look at what it would look like, what guidelines we would follow, what structure that would be, and the potential pitfalls that could bring. But just wanted to get the wheels turning on that.
Do you know if county council does it during their actual meeting or is it before?
I believe it's at the beginning of their meeting, so I'm not sure if it's actual part of.
I think it's right before they do
Like
the
they
Pledge of
open it
Allegiance or
and
right
everything?
after.
Yeah, I think they do the call to order. They do the prayer, they do the Pledge of Allegiance, and they go right into.
Yeah, I'd be curious to hear if
Yes.
they've had any issues with not being what it was intended for.
That would be, yeah, that would be my concern.
Yeah, I'm more interested in getting information from them on like how that would be structured. I know it was mentioned to me that like there are some guidelines that one person can do it no more than twice a year. It has to be a recognized religion, whether that be Christianity, Catholicism, whatever, but it could be anything.
It
right?
doesn't have to be
Recognized
religion, actually, from what I.
No?
Can be anybody.
Well,
could be-
I would
so-
like to get the information on that.
Yeah, we can have staff do that. I know that the state legislature does it, and often the prayer is praying to trees, Wiccans, and occasionally Satanists. So I'm just concerned of taking something that would be potentially positive, and it, sometimes that's why we can't have nice things. So that would be my major concern there. So, but staff can work with Councilmember Overholzer on what that looks like. And Councilmember DeRocher, did you have something to add?
Oh, no, I
Okay,
think I
sorry.
already asked it. Sorry, I was just curious about the county council.
Well, all of their meetings are online, so I highly recommend that everybody can go watch a meeting.
Oh.
So with that, this meeting is adjourned at 9:09 PM. Thank you.